dangerous, and I think we eager to know how you handle about these cases. Thank you.
Good morning, my dear colleagues. I'm very happy to be here to share my experience about this unique implant system, UNCLOS, from China. And thank you for Dr. Barcelona Corporation, and thank you for Vigo to invite me to be here. I'm Dr. Chen from China. My city is in Shenzhen. It's a city in the south of China, very close to Hong Kong. And also it's a very beautiful city, have a lot of skyscrapers. And my clinic named the U Dental Clinic. Now we have 13 clinics in China, and we also do a lot of training courses in our department. Today my topic is about minimal invasive surgery to prevent recession of the soft tissue. And first of all, I'd like to tell you about my learning curve about immediate implantation. About 20 years ago, when I do immediate implantation, I will open the flap, read the flap, insert the implant, and fill in the gap with some particular bone graft, and cover the wound with the membrane, and close the wound without tension. And then about 4 to 6 months later, I should do the re-entry surgery. And I usually do the apical reposition flap to widen the keratinized mucosa, and then take impression, and the final crown may be full ceramic or PFM crown. You know, if I do this treatment protocol, even at the day of the restoration, there's some recession of the soft tissue, and also some scar on the buccal gingiva. And I will tell you how I do immediate implantation since 5 years. And 5 years ago, when I do immediate implantation, I never do flap, always flapless, and insert implant by using a progressive thread implant to get primary stability, and use a contour connection to prevent bone resorption. And if I can get the good primary stability, I always do the immediate restoration, use the temporary crown to support soft tissue. You can see if you use abutment temporary crown and the buccal bone, we can create a chamber or space for bone regeneration. Even I didn't put any artificial bone into the space. 3 months later, the bone will regenerate to fill in the gap, fill in the space. And also the soft tissue can get primary healing. And 4 months later, when I do the final restoration, I can take impression on the abutment level. And also the final restoration is very simple. I just change the crown. Use about one-time concept, and change the crown from the natural tooth to the final zirconia crown. And also the result is very stable. 3 years later, there is no gingival recession. And comparing these two kinds of methods, I think the patient must love the later one, because less swelling, less pain, and also the result is very stable. And I should ask myself, why I change my treatment method for the front teeth? Because I think one of the most important things for front teeth is aesthetic. I should choose a method which can prevent recession. And there are a lot of factors can cause bone resorption, can cause gingival recession. That include implantation and also bone resorption, implant system, and also soft tissue support. But for me, one of the most important factors, I think, is how to handle the soft tissue, and that's soft tissue surgery. Let's say a clinical study. This clinical study was done by a Chinese group from Shanghai. He compared 2 different kinds of flap surgery. One is flapless, another one is minimal invasive. And all the cases lost the first mandibular molar. 20 cases use flapless surgery, minimal invasive surgery. Another group used flap surgery. And he compared the soft tissue healing and compared the post-surgical visual analog signal for painting and the width of keratinized mucosa and the marginal bone loss. And here is the case, use a minimal invasive. And from CT scan, we can see we have enough bone width and height. So just use a probe to measure the thickness of the soft tissue, and use the fiber to remove the soft tissue, and drilling the hole, insert the implant, and use the gingival former to get emergency profile. And this is the final restoration. let's see the result. Comparing these two kinds of the method, and the average VAS for pain of the minimal invasive group is 13, about 13. And for the flap surgery group, it's about 56. And also the number of subjects who felt no pain was higher in minimal invasive group than in the flap surgery group. You mean if you can do the surgery with minimal invasive, the patient will get less pain, less swelling, and the patient will introduce more and more patients to your clinic. I think that's very important for the private clinic. And also comparing to other factors such as marginal bone level and the width of the calcium mucosa, the two groups have no difference. And so there are three kinds of protocol we can do our implant surgery. The first one is a full flap. Another one is a minimal flap or flapless. If we do the full flap, and we can see clearly about the bone. So there's the risk of perforation will less. But flap means what? Means more pain, means swelling for the patient. If we do the flapless or minimal flap, and the patient will have less pain, less swelling, but the visualization is also good. So we should be careful. We should know very well about the bone under the soft tissue to prevent the perforation. And in my daily practice, and because I want more and more patients to come to me to let me to do the implant surgery, so I always try to do the minimal invasive if it is possible. Not every case is possible, but I think in some case you can do the minimal invasive surgery, and that's better for the patient. And so I think for the minimal invasive patient, minimal invasive surgery have the special indications. And let's say the case for the immediate implantation. And this patient, the maxillary upper incisor mobile because of the periapical lesion. From the CT scan before surgery, we can see the defect of the buccal bone. Before, if I did this surgery, if I treat this patient with implantation, I will open flap and doing the guided bone generation, and that means the patient after surgery will have some pain, some swelling. But for this patient, I think the basal bone is wide enough, so the implant can get a good primary stability. And also the bone level of the adjacent teeth is better. Although he has the defect of the buccal bone, but I think the defect is a 3-wall defect, not a 4-wall defect. So maybe for this kind of indication, I can also do flapping surgery, and I can insert the particularly the bone substitute into the defect, and I think the bone graft will be very stable. To prevent soft tissue recession, I can also do some soft tissue graft. And if the implant can get a good primary stability, I can do the immediate restoration to support the soft tissue. That's the way I treat this patient nowadays. So I pull out teeth and insert implant, and put in some bone graft and get the connective tissue from palate, and also fix a standard abutment, and also use the patient own tooth to be the temporary crown to support the soft tissue. And also the patient wear these temporary teeth, the natural teeth, for 2 years, because the patient think the aesthetic is good and the function is good. And 2 years later, the patient wants to do the final restoration. We can see the soft tissue is very stable. And I only remove the temporary crown and take impression on the abutment level. And so the final restoration is also very simple. I just remove the crown and replace the natural crown with the full zirconia crown. And also the result is very stable. From X-ray, we can see the middle or distal bone level is very stable. I think the reason because of the connection between the abutment and the implant of this special implant system. That's very important. And also another case, some front teeth mobile because of the periapical lesion. And also I pull out the teeth and insert an implant, and also use a temporary bridge to support the soft tissue. The shape of the temporary bridge is very crucial because if we want to prevent soft tissue recession, we should give the patient the prosthesis can support soft tissue. So I should use the right pumpkin shape to support soft tissue. And so this is the immediate after the immediate implantation and the immediate restoration. 4 months later, I removed the temporary bridge, and also I didn't change the abutment, and I take impression on the abutment level, and the final restoration is the first cornea bridge, and I just change the temporary bridge to the final bridge, and also the procedure is very simple for this patient. And also patient love this kind of method because it's less pain, less swelling. And also a lot of times we should do the delayed implantation. For delayed implantation means that we should open the flap, we should see the ball. But for some special indication, if we can make sure the ball is enough, and also if the patient have enough width of the keratinized tissue, maybe we can do flap-lid surgery. But for flap-lid surgery, we have the risk of the perforation. So I think the guided surgery is very helpful for this kind of treatment. So if I do the flap-lid surgery, I always do the guided surgery. Yeah. So if I do the guided surgery, I should give the patient a radiological template. The patient wears this template to do the CT scan. So in the CT scan, we can also see the ball and also see the final processes. According to this, we can plan the position of our implant. And if we know the position of the implant, we can know the position of our abutment. For this patient, for the full interlocus of the mandible, the restoration is Sincon concept, the double crown immediate processes. So we can modify our processes before the surgery. That's very simple because we know the position of the implant and position of the abutment. During surgery, because the patient have enough keratinized tissue, we can do flap surgery and use a punch to remove some gingiva and drilling the hole with the help of the guide, of the surgical guide, and insert full ankylosing implant and fix the single abutment. And also, because we already modified the denture before the surgery, so it's very simple for me to realize the immediate processing the patient wants. The whole procedure is less than 1 hour, and also the patient was happy with the procedure. No swelling, no pain, and also the result is very stable. But sometimes we should do bone augmentation. And a lot of patients have less bone, and also the soft tissue is not so good. For this kind of patient, we should do bone augmentation. If we do bone augmentation, we should do the flap surgery. But for this kind of patient, I like to do the bone graft and sometimes soft graft at the first stage. And before the second surgery, before the final restoration, I only do the minimal invasive surgery. If you do a lot of surgery before the final restoration, the soft tissue will not be stable. So I think if some patients they need bone graft or soft graft, you better do the grafting first. Always before the final restoration, always the minimal invasive surgery. So you're doing this, the soft tissue will be stable. The long-term result will be stable. This patient, I pulled out this root was pulled out by another dentist and referred to me to do the implant. 3 months after extraction, we can see some shrinkage of the area bone. So we should do the guided bone regeneration for this patient. So I should open the flap, insert the implant and some deficiency of the buccal plate, and so I should do the guided bone regeneration in the membrane and also particularly the bone graft and the closer with on tension. And 6 months later, we can see the good healing of the buccal bone, and we have enough bone width of the buccal side. And from the patient in the mouth, we can see the contour of the area is good. So for this kind of patient, I usually do the minimal invasive second surgery. I just make a very little incision, and first I can use a small diameter gingival former. Maybe 4 to 6 weeks later, I can change the large diameter gingival former, and then do the impression. And the final restoration is the full ceramic abutment and full ceramic crown. The patient was happy with this result. So you can see when I do this minimal invasive surgery, I always use a conical connection implant system. And there is a question, when we use a conical connection implant system, how deep should we insert the implant? I think everybody knows we should insert implant subcrestal, but maybe 10 or 12 years ago, there's not a clear question. There are some studies comparing about for this implant system, which level should we insert implant. This study from the Dr. Marco Di Gidi, It's a clinical study, and some patients have achieved the implant from the patient mouth. And this implant system is unclosed implant system. And some implant will insert subcrestal, some implant will insert at the same level of the bone level. And we can see if you insert the implant subcrestal, there are always some bone can grow on the shoulder of the implant. That means all the implant was embedded in the bone. And I think this is very stable for long-term results. But if you insert implant at the same level of bone and some resorption, if some bone resorption, the neck of the implant may be exposed in the soft tissue, maybe it's not so stable. And that's his clinical study. And concerning about the bone resorption of these two kinds of surgery, and if you insert the implant at the same level of the bone, and always some bone resorption, and the resorption is from the 0.5 to 1.2 millimeter for the equal prestal position of the implant. But you insert implant subprestal, maybe 1 to 3 millimeters subprestal, and the bone resorption is less from the Dr. Michael Diddy's research. The bone resorption is about 0.1 to 0.5, less bone resorption if you insert implant subprestal. So he recommends we should always insert the unclosed implant system subprestal. But not all the clinical studies can have the same result. This study was published by this year from the Clinical Oral Implant Research and in 2018. Dr. From and also comparing about the bone resorption of two different kinds of surgery. One is epicrestal and another one is subcrestal. And one group he insert implant at the same level of the bone. And another group, he insert implant subcrestal about 1 to 3 millimeter. And also this treating protocol, and he do the delayed loading. And first the temporary crown, and then change to the feather restoration after the healing time. And first he comparing about soft tissue remodeling. He used a template to measure the shrinkage of the buccal gingival margin. And also he evaluate the papilla of these two kinds of methods. He can say, comparing about the buccal gingival margin, there's no difference between these two different kinds of surgery. And also the two different groups have the much better papillary regeneration after some time. And for soft tissue, and no difference between these two groups. But for the hard tissue, and if he insert implant at the same level of the bone, and the bone is also very stable. But if he insert implant subcrestal, he can always some bone grow on the shoulder of the implant, although there is some bone resorption. And the comparing of the bone resorption, and in his study, he can see more bone resorption in the subcrestal group. That means if you insert implant subcrestal, more bone resorption. But if you insert implant at the same level of bone, less bone resorption. However, but the difference has no statistic difference. Yeah, so difference not so much. But if you insert implant subcrestal, there always some bone can grow on the shoulder of the implant. I think this is very important because if all the implant was embedded in the bone, and I think it's very stable for the long-term result. So according to these two studies, although the result is a little different, but it can tell us for unclosed system, with better, we should insert implant subcrestal. So how to get soft tissue stability? According to some clinical cases, we should insert implant subcrestal insertion. If you use insert implant subcrestal, the connection between the abutment and the implant should be conical connection, should be platform switching. I think the conical connection is the best for this kind of a procedure. And also another important factor is about the thickness of the soft tissue. There are studies, a lot of studies can tell us platform switching can preserve the bone. I think everybody knows that. But I think besides the platform switching, some other factors can also influence the bone resorption. The fun factor is the thickness of the soft tissue. This study comparing that when he used platform switching implant system, Some cases have the very thin soft tissue, some cases have a thick soft tissue. And these two kinds of soft tissue use the same implant. And let's see the result. For the thin soft tissue, there are always more resorption. And for the thick soft tissue, the resorption is much less. So I think if you use a platform switching implant system, the soft tissue can also play a very important role. So thick soft tissue comparing with the platform switching implant system can preserve the bone. Yeah. So the both resorption, how to prevent both resorption, and we should insert the implant subcrestal and use a conical connection implant system, and also the minimal invasive surgery is very important because it is better for the soft tissue healing. And so if we insert implant subcrestal, the implant is very deep in the bone. That means that we will have a long crown. Long crown means a long cantilever. But for the long cantilever, the diameter of the ankylosing abutment is 2.5 millimeter. Maybe somebody think it's weak. So for all of my cases, if I use this subcrestal insertion, it's better to use a solid abutment. A solid abutment in implant system is a straight standard abutment or straight balance-based abutment is always a solid abutment. I think it's much better. It's much stronger than the normal abutment. And also the advantage of the subcrestal insertion, it means that we can prevent bone resorption and avoid bone augmentation. But if you insert implant very deep, every time you remove the abutment, you will damage the connection, attachment between the abutment with the soft tissue, even with some bone. So if you insert implants very deep, you better use the one abutment, one time concept. You never change the abutment when you fix it. That is better for the hard tissue and soft tissue healing. So that's very important. So how to get the tissue stability? I think the two important factors is we should insert implant subcrestal. And by doing this, we can get more vertical space for the soft tissue, for the tissue around the implant and abutment. We should use the platform switching implant system, which can give us more horizontal space. And also, we should do the minimal invasive surgery of the soft tissue, and which can get primary healing of the implant and also abutment. By doing this, and I think we can get a very long, stable result for our soft tissue and also for our processes. So not every patient can do the minimal invasive or flapping surgery, but if you can't do it, I recommend you do it. If you do the flapping surgery, I think the patient should have enough bone quantity, bone width and bone height. And also the patient should have enough keratinized mucosa, because you do flappings, you will remove some keratinized tissue. So the patient should have enough base of the keratinized tissue. And also, a lot of patients have the limited keratinized tissue mucosa, but have enough bone height and bone width. For this kind of patient, I like to do the small incision. If you do the small incision, small flap, you can preserve the keratinized tissue, and also less trauma for the patient. But for the patient have the limited bone quantity, we should do the gettable radiation, should do the bone augmentation, and also the patient have the limited keratinized mucosa, so we should do the open flap. By this kind of patient, I recommend that the first surgery, we can do the bone augmentation, soft tissue augmentation, but before the final restoration, I think the surgery should be minimal invasive. Before the final restoration, if you do a lot of surgery, maybe the result is not so stable. So you'd better do augmentation at the first stage, and that's better for the long-term result. And also that's a key point from my presentation. If you want to prevent soft tissue recession, and you should do minimal invasive surgery, and you should insert the implant subcrestally, and use the platform switching and the conical connection implant. And also, if you want to do the minimal invasive surgery, you should insert implant at the right position. How to do the right position? You can use the bone mapping, and nowadays I'd like to use the guided surgery. By doing this, I think you can prevent soft tissue recession. And also, thank you for your attention, and have a nice day. Thank you so much.